Good morning, and welcome to Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living, our Wednesday morning service. Welcome to all of you online on YouTube, and welcome to all of you who are here in the room, bringing your love and your presence. Some of you are bringing So welcome, everyone. So good to see everyone. I'm Reverend Gregory Toole, and I want to start with our announcements here. Let's see, do I? No, I want to start with prayer. Prayer, wow, what is... See, I showed up like right on time for the meditation, see, and now I'm like, okay, all right, let me take a breath. Let's take a collective breath together and anchor and center in this moment of right now. And in this moment of right now, we recognize, we remember, we wake up to this great reality that there is a divine presence of love, of wholeness, of harmony, of infinite intelligence and power and creativity, and that one life, that one mind, that one activity is the very life and mind and activity that is expressing as each one of us, that we are each divine expressions of that one, partaking fully of the divine nature. Infinite intelligence, love, power, harmony, wholeness, peace, joy. This is our nature. And so I speak my word this morning, declaring and knowing that this service, this time together, communing in fellowship, being with each other, sharing spiritual practice, that we are awakening to something new right here today, right in this moment of right now. Something new is revealed, something that gives us a little something else, some opening. Something is opening, something is happening for us, and so I know that we are fully present to be awake to whatever it is that is wanting to awaken in us this morning. And so I just bless the service, our speaker, Reverend Katherine McKinney, knowing that the divine is moving through her in beautiful ways, knowing the divine is moving through each one of us in beautiful ways. I bless it. I call it good. I know it is just so good. I am grateful, and I let it be. And so it is. Amen. All right. Now for some announcements. Y'all got to remind me. Y'all got to tell me, Reverend Gregory, do a prayer. Don't start anything without the prayer, right? We got an agreement there? You all will tell me? Yes. Got to keep the minister in line, you know. So let's see. Today, this evening at 6 p.m. in Richelieu Hall, we have our vegan potluck. And everyone is invited, whether you're vegan or not. And even if you somehow don't have time to make a dish, still come, because there will be, trust me, there will be plenty of food. So come by, get some great vegan food. If you wonder what people like me eat, come find out, and you're going to see it's like, wow, this is good. Because people often ask me, isn't it hard to be a vegan? I'm like, oh, I'm eating such good food. No, it's not hard at all. So anyway, if you're inclined to come to that. If you do want to bring a dish, bring one that serves at least 8 people. And you can find out from the flyer what vegan means specifically. Also, this Friday, at 6 p.m. in Richelieu Hall as well, a concert and dance party with our beloved Soundscape Orchestra, and there is no cost for the event. Our drumming circle is currently on hiatus, but it will return. And Linda Gauthier is offering 2 times for her painting workshop. You can attend either Friday, February 28th or Saturday, March 1st. It's an all-day thing, and you can awaken the inner artist in you. Many people have taken her classes and become full-fledged artists after taking that. If nothing else, just awaken your greater creativity. So see the flyers on the activity table. Men's Spirit Group will be... Oh, come forward, Katherine McKinney. Did we tell them we were doing this?
I did. Linda Gauthier called me yesterday, and she asked me to be a prop for her on Sunday, because she's going to stand up here. And I said, I won't be here Sunday, but I will do it on Wednesday. So I have painted with Linda, and I'm holding I've painted with her a number of times, like 9 or 10 maybe, and I have done a painting every time. And I absolutely love the experience. I'm always exhausted because we stood when we painted, whereas I think people in this class will sit. But I would be tired, but it was one of the happiest days every time we did that. So this are my beets, and I am so happy with my beets it actually hangs on my wall in my dining room. So you too can do a wonderful picture. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. When I think of my beats, I think of ecstatic dance, you know. Boom, 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 boom. Thank you for reminding me of that, Reverend Katherine. So our men's spirit group will meet on Monday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. So join us. All the men are welcome to join us for that. We have a new day for our Labyrinth Walk. It will be the first Wednesday of each month, so the next one will be March 5th, and it'll be right after the service here. So that way, if you're already here for the Wednesday service, you can go walk the Labyrinth afterward. So March 5th, that's coming up. And then for a full list of activities, you can see our weekly e-newsletter, our Spirit Speaks magazine, or our activity table. And there's also out there on the tables handouts for Season for Nonviolence and a flyer for the Bears of Love, which are all those bears out there that will eventually make their way to some children, and all the love that we've been putting in them will be shared with the children. A big thank you to all of our wonderful volunteers. We appreciate you all so much. So many people are involved in having this thing run and what we do here. So thank you so much for all who are in sacred service. So without further ado, let us welcome our speaker today, Reverend Katherine McKinney.
Thank you, Reverend Gregory. And thank you all for being here, especially you bears. I mean, I'm telling you, it makes it feel like such a big crowd. It's a wonderful thing to look out and see the bears. Today, I am organizing my thoughts around the title that I chose, Looking for the Good. And I chose this because of my learning, my teaching, my reading with Emma Curtis Hopkins. Emma Curtis Hopkins has a phrase that I've used very often that I associate with her is, your good is your God. So even knowing all of that, how I came to choose this is an interesting path. I stood in front of my bookcase. This is several weeks ago when I'm deciding what I'm going to do. And so I stood in front of my bookcase and I just reached up and picked out a book, for Emma. And I don't know why I did that. And I love the way that happens, but that's what I was drawn to. So I ended up having some thoughts moving through, and that part again that I have read before, your good is your God, is the thing that jumped out at me. So that's how I was going to organize my thoughts. Now, in preparing for that, I wanted to share with you a few things about Emma herself, and I'm going to refer to as Emma because I think we're friends. And she was born a little before the Civil War in rural northeastern part of our state, New England. And she was like many other women in that time. She was not well educated. She did graduate from high school, but most women really, they knew enough to be able to manage contracts, any things they needed to read for their livelihood, and they could make change and they could do things like that, but they were not particularly skilled, and that was not something that was sought for women. But she graduated high school and then turned around and started teaching in the classroom. Now, that was unusual, but it happened because the Civil War had ended and there was a shortage of men. And so women stepped into a number of roles that had heretofore been all men, you know, a little like Rosie the Riveter in more modern times. Women just stepped in and did what they needed to do. And they seemed to center around caregiving and looking for health and taking care of things at that point. Well, Emma did teach, and she also married. She had her own children, and she was managing her life. Now, one thing that is true about her is that she was a voracious reader. always. She, as one person that read said, she may have skipped that housekeeping part because she just really was so into reading. So at the time, many people were becoming consumed, pardon the pun, with respiratory ailments. And there was coal that was being burned, and it's a cold climate, so you were inside where a lot of this was burning. There was just a lot of ways that lungs had problems in that time. And her small household succumbed to that illness as well. And so about that time, someone invited her to a meeting in which Mary Baker Eddy was speaking. And so Mary Baker Eddy was about healing at this point. She had already come to some of her own ideas about that. And whatever she said, Emma took that to heart and went home and practiced all of those things with her family, and her family got well. And so because she is this voracious reader and learner, I want to know more. It's really where she went. So she made a lot of arrangements. She ultimately became part of Mary Baker Eddy's Christian Science in Boston for a time. She left and formed her own activity in teaching out of Chicago. She taught over 50,000 people in her lifetime. She is one of the premier spiritual healing teachers in this country. Many people taught from her, including Ernest Holmes, near the end of Emma Curtis Hopkins' life. And so she had a wide reach. So in her teaching, she always focused on her 12 lessons. I've read a number of her books, and they all go with the 12 lessons in that same order. They don't say the same things, because Emma didn't write these books. Other people recorded what she said in these classes. And so they're very detailed. Because her classes were long, and she really captured everyone's attention, and she created a lot of people who were healing others. And it was all about healing. That's always what it was about. And so as she organized these classes, the very first lesson was about the state of being and how we are. And that idea of good surfaces in there, and that's where she says, your good is your God. And so what she means by that is that whatever it is that you're seeking, it's always your good at the bottom of that. So I'm going to ask you now, just to answer for yourself, what is the good that you are seeking? Now, what I read is that when that question is asked, Emma observed that most people think of what they don't want as opposed to what they want when they follow with that question. So you are going after your good, she said, all the time, even when you're not necessarily thinking that's what you're doing. Now, what really intrigued me, and it's one of the reasons that I decided to actually talk about this, is she says in one place, the drunken prince leaving the tavern is seeking his good. The thief that runs through the alleys in the night is seeking his good. Well, see, what that is saying to me is that we don't always think, I'm seeking my good as we're going after things and as things come to us. But that if we're chasing it, that's what it is. God is all there is. There's only one thing going on. And if I want this, then that becomes my God. That is how I'm defining my good, by putting it in the focus of my life. That's what she's saying. And so what that says to me, that we are doing this quite often without necessarily being aware of that. So all of this is percolating through my own mind and thinking about how does it affect me is how I'm thinking about it. And I start noticing things, it's in my consciousness, so I'm noticing. I had a thought, I am going away this coming weekend, and so I needed to rearrange some things. And I sent a text message to an appointment I had to move it up. I didn't hear back, and I wasn't even thinking about it. But then I got this text that just scrolled across my screen while I was doing something else. And the person said, I can see you at this time on this day. Well, it's not the day I asked for, but it was actually better. And so I accepted. And so it was a few minutes later, I'm going, that was the good I was chasing so that I could make my life work out. I just wanted to do that. I didn't do a prayer treatment to make this work out. I just wanted it to work out. And so that's what happened. And so I'm acknowledging that. And then just yesterday, something happened at home. It has to do with our neighbors. And I thought, I just need to go and talk to them about that. And my next thought was it'd be a lot easier if they'd just be out the driveway so I didn't have to knock on the door because they have a new infant in their house. I walk out to put something in the trash can. There he is, right there in the driveway. So I get to talk about what I'm talking about. Do you hear what I'm saying? It is the things that we want in our lives, how often do they show up in some way or another? How often are we even conscious of that's what happened? I think about over time how I've used examples of things that happened in my life because I just thought of them, and I'm looking at it as prosperity, and I'm giving it as an example of prosperity. But if I back up some steps, why did it just show up like that? Because I didn't say, I didn't say those things, but it just came up. I was wanting that. I was going after my good as I defined it. I also have come to believe you can be going after more than one good. I do believe that. I've come to believe that because I'm going after too many things for me to not believe that, because that's the way it works. And so one of the things that Emma says, that everything you are and everything you say comes from the good that you are seeking. Now that's a profound thought. What is it am I saying and doing that is coming into that idea? Everything you say and everything you do comes from the good that you are seeking. And so I start thinking about how do we decide if we are making conscious choices about what our good is. And sometimes we have very obvious things that we want to have happen. And I'm thinking the obvious means in the area of prosperity. We may feel some lack in some way, so maybe we want to get a job, or maybe we want to start a business, maybe we want to do something to bring in that. And so we're thinking, okay, I'm going to find this job. Well, what Emma says, the job is not the good you're seeking. What is the good that you're seeking? It's to find a way to get the prosperity that you want. I'm seeking that, not the job. And so you follow that through. The good is what you're really going for. Why do we work? Do we work for a paycheck, or do we work for some other reason? I read a letter from someone who is ready to retire, and his financial advisor has told them that they have everything they need to go ahead and retire. They have plenty of money, and it's got a good future. They don't need to worry. You don't need a paycheck in order to live the way you want to live. But the individual who's at that retirement age still has anxiety. His anxiety is about, how will I feel when I don't have that paycheck? It's that thing coming in. It really bothered him. He recognized what he was doing. So he was asking to reframe. He was asking for help, almost like a therapist, to reframe how he was thinking about this. And so the therapist answered in a way that helped him reframe about all of his life. You've worked and saved so you could get to this point, and now that you're there, you're not used to, well, what do I do if I'm not working and saving to get to this point? And it's a transition, and you decide how you do that sort of thing. And so he was confusing what his good was. He had thought that he was working in order to be able to do this, and when this came, it's like, wait, what do I do now? And that is an example to me that we don't always know exactly what we're doing, or we get caught up in what we're doing, and we don't pay attention to life as it's going past. And I think areas of health can be even more confusing because of the treatments that are offered and how we come to that feeling of health. And in our country, we discovered, as we went through COVID, that many people have a different idea of health and how we get there. And we're not all the same in that regard. Whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't even matter. We just don't all think the same. And we come to our agreements and our understandings in different ways. Maybe you have noticed that. So how we are in any given situation, even in our country's situation where there's a lot of disagreement about things, how do I find where it is that I need to be? What does my good look like? Well, I can't tell you what your good looks like, but I do know that a conscious way of thinking about what it is that you want, what it is that is your God in your life, that's where your good is. And finding ways to frame that and talk about that in a way that is healthy and good for you is what we all need to do. I have a book reading class that I go through every Wednesday when I happen to speak. It's always on Wednesday mornings. And we had a very surprising conversation today, unlike any that we've had, at least within this particular book we're reading. And it all had to do with our attitudes about, honestly, about loss, cancer, that particular concept and what that means. And the author is saying certain things about that. And people were disturbed. And we spent most of the class not reading the book, but expressing that and finding ways to do that. And so it occurs to me, too, that when we go through treatment for something, when we know what we're going for, when we understand where we are coming out, maybe it makes a difference as to how we continue to feel about the fact that we had it. And the idea is that our cells have memories. And they remember things even when the physical evidence may be gone. And that's what medical science has come to, or at least Deepak is saying this in this book. And several people really had a problem with that. Where does this ghost of memory come from? And so I am not the explanatory for any of that. But I do know that in my own understanding, my good is what I'm chasing. If I use treatment to get there, it's not the treatment that I'm putting my good in. It is where I'm going. And I have not had this treatment, so I can't speak from that experience. I have watched other people have treatment. And what I know that it's important for each of us, whatever is in front of us that looks like a big old fat boulder, whatever is in front of us, we need to think about what is my good in all of this? What is my good? And for us to assume that someone who passes from their ailment never did get any healing might be a wrong assumption. We don't decide for other people any more than I decide why someone got cancer. In this center, going back for at least 10 years, I have heard people say things like, well, I'm not surprised they got cancer because they da. The first time I heard that, I couldn't believe what I heard. And at the time, I didn't have the courage to say something. How could you say that? I like to believe that I would say, at the least, I don't agree with what you just said. Because I don't get to decide anybody else's life. I never get to do that. As a practitioner, I treat for their highest and best good and know that best for them. And that, to me, is the good that I want them to want for themselves without defining what that looks. What is the thief looking for in the night? What is the drunken prince coming out of the tavern looking for? And what Emma's really saying is everybody is looking for their good, whether they realize what they're doing or not. That's what that says to me, because she doesn't explain that in that passage. So, ultimately, I believe we come to this notion, just as I have even deeper over the last few days, that when I know what it is that I am wanting to accomplish, that it becomes my good. So I want to be careful in how I do that. And I also know that it matters, always know that it matters what I think. What we think is what we have. Ernest Holmes says that we can only embody the amount of good that we can conceive of. And I remember there is a conceive, a believe, and receive. You have to be able to conceive of it. If you want prosperity, but you can't go beyond $1,000, that's all you can conceive of. So that's what you believe. That's the limit. And he says it's a limit. And so what you receive is what you believe and what you can conceive of. So it says to me that maybe we all need to raise our level of conception. What can I conceive? Can I grow in that every day? And I'm saying that yes, you can. We're changing every day, every one of us, at the cellular level. And so we can direct that change with how we do our spiritual work. Reverend Gregory has invited the congregation to begin the day with a minute of meditation and then a minute of prayer treatment for the day. And as you do that and you grow in that, you grow in consciousness. You lift your consciousness. And whatever's going on in the world now, you lift the consciousness of the world when you lift yours. And that's the only consciousness you can ever lift, is yours. I can only lift mine. That's my job. And so I invite you to think about this idea that my good is there for me and I ought to have it. She says that in lesson 2. My good is there for me, and she capitalizes good, and I ought to have it. I'm not going to have it if I don't pursue that good, but I ought to have it. It's there for me. God has no plans for us except for our unfoldment of life with a capital L. Our good. Our good. God is good. And God is good by means of me, by means of you, by means of each one of us. We express God every step we take. Spirit is within us, and God is all there is. That's a big piece. So by pursuing our good, going after our good, we are lifting up all that we're doing. So I invite you to join with that idea that my good is there for me and I ought to have it. I'm looking for my good. I'm expecting my good. And I can conceive, believe, and receive all that I can imagine. And so it is. And so now is the time for us to share some of our good with our center. And so I invite you to do our prosperity affirmation. And it begins. Divine love consecrates my gift. To bless and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. So it is. I love the part of that affirmation that says it blesses those who give as well as those who receive. I feel blessed when I am able to give, and I want to know that you feel blessed as well. So does anybody have any questions? Do you all know what your good is? Are you willing to spend time to think about that? That I want to know that we all get to do that. Any questions? Somebody way over there, as far as you can go, I think. Oh, he was just combing your hair? No. She was just going to give away her good. Yes.
I don't know if it was the week before last, we had a Wednesday session, and I had mentioned that I lost my keys. I couldn't find them anywhere. And I concentrated on them, and I thought good thoughts about them. I tried to visualize where they might be, and I found them. So it was wonderful. So I thought, well, if this worked for the keys, it might work for something else.
My good is there for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
So when my son was born, Ryan, I decided that he needed lots of bunny rabbits in his bedroom. So I got him lots of bunny rabbits and made it look like, Peter Cottontail. And this one special bunny, it was naked. And I go, that bunny needs a jacket. So I made him a jacket because I can sew. And I took it to preschool years later because I became a preschool teacher, and I brought the bunny with me and the book that I would read with it. And one day the bunny was gone. I thought, oh, crap, the bunny's gone. Oh, well, I'll never see it again. Some little kid probably ran off with it or whatever. So then I started thinking about my keys. Then I started thinking about the bunny. And I just tried to visualize where that bunny might be and how, just all the things that I could positively think about this little bunny. And don't you know I found it?
I do know. I do know.
It was great.
Thank
so now
you.
I'm going to figure something else out.
I used to know somebody here who, when they lost things, would say things like, if I were my keys, where would I be? And I loved that phrase. And I've misplaced something myself today that I'm still looking for. So I will find it, I know. Any other questions? Can you wait for the microphone, because I will hear you a lot better. Thank you. Thank you.
I always say that there's nothing lost. In
Yes.
God's world, nothing's ever lost.
Nothing's ever lost to me. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite phrases. Just nothing is ever lost to me. And sometimes it takes a lot of faith to stick with that when it's a big thing. I remember, you all remember, some of you anyway, remember Reverend June. And she left something really important in the airport. And she actually called me for a treatment because I have found a whole lot of lost things for myself. I've had big stories about that. So she called me. We did a prayer treatment, and she walked straight to someplace, and there it was. So it's her belief, actually. Yes, David.
You've done it again, Reverend Katherine. That was amazing. I wanted to say I went through treatment for radiation, and I have a clean bill of health now, and I'm cancer-free, And I always thought that I would be healthy no matter what. I consisted of going to the gym every morning at 5 o'clock while I was in treatment. And I also booked a cruise going to the Caribbean.
Yes.
That's coming up March 30th. So I kept thinking that I'm healthy no matter what. And I haven't had a cold in years.
Yes.
So,
Well, I do think how we think about ourselves matters. And I have not defined it as my good, but I do, we all do things as we think we should. So whatever I do and what you do is not necessarily what somebody else is required to do in order to be healthy. So we are not setting parameters based on our experience. I just want to say that's really important. I do any number of things to be a healthy person, but that doesn't mean you have to go to strenuous things. But it's important to me. And there's certain things that are very important to me, so I do them. And so I must feel like, I believe in community at this center. I believe in doing things that promote community. And I've done that quite a lot. So I'll be here tonight at this vegan, and I will make a dish. I am not vegan, but I went to the last one. Let me tell you, there was an amazing amount of food, and it was really, really good. And I sat beside someone that you all know extremely well, who's not even remotely thinking about vegan, and he goes, I can't believe how good this is. It really, you don't need meat to be satisfied and to enjoy the way someone tastes. That's really the bottom line. And all of us just want to eat to be healthy, and sometimes we eat because we just like the way it tastes. So it is, we're trying to mix those things together, I think.
I want to give thanks for all the support I got from the community here.
Yes.
And my friends from here, and everybody stepped forward in their own way, and it was just very heartwarming.
Right. Yes, I know, and people step up in ways depending on the situation that's just gratifying. They give you a ride, they take you somewhere, they support you. It's any number of ways. It all matters. So when we were talking about the fires, remember a number of weeks ago when the fires had just started, we were talking about what we could do. And at that point, the fires were still raging and you couldn't go up there. So what can I do aside from writing a check? Because some people want to do more than that. They want to do something with their hands. So we did a lot of talking about that. And if you want to do that, then you should do that and figure out how to do that, because there's a need within you to do that kind of giving. And I know there's some people who are committed to their cause, to their activity, because they know it makes a difference. And if you're one of those, God bless you, keep doing that. You not only benefit those you serve, you're benefiting yourself and all of those around you. Yes, Beverly.
Good morning. A new subject in a way, but still the same subject. I'd like to ask for a prayer. I have a very good friend, Marilyn, and right now as I'm speaking, she's having brain surgery. And the thing that I was hearing from you, when she used to visit me from Texas, she said, I just did my 7-mile walk on the pier or on the Strand. And so, she's done a healthy living. And I said to her, honey, your body knows exactly how to heal. So right at this moment, I would just love a prayer for Marilyn.
That's a great opportunity. Thank you. If y'all don't mind, I'm going to sit down while I do this, because I like to sit down when I'm treating. So I take this cleansing breath. I bring it into my body, but I bring it into my whole consciousness, just allowing myself to breathe in very consciously that breath of spirit, of God, of infinite, of perfection. And I exhale all of those chemicals I don't need, all of those worries, concerns, anything, any ideas around brain surgery that are negative. I just let all those go. What I know is their power of this creator I call God. I call spirit. I call it divine. It is my source. for everything that I need. And the beloved presence that I believe is the feeling of God within me and around me. And that feeling that I connect with brings me comfort, brings me warmth, and it brings me a level of peace that I bring to the words I speak. And I say these words from Marilyn. And I know that wherever Marilyn is in her procedure, that her heart is singing. She is absolutely beautiful in the way she's expressing her life, and that she is so ready for the change that she is orchestrating through the hands of the surgeons to bring more life, to bring more goodness, more healing and health and vigor to this body that she uses in this lifetime. Our bodies are so precious, so absolutely precious, and there comes a time when something happens that we simply want to take care of. And there are very often times when that is easy to just simply do or have done. I bless medical science. I bless the doctors and the skill of the surgeons who so beautifully do absolutely perfecting work, making everything work together even more harmoniously. Out with the bad air, in with the good air, just like breathing. And so we simply allow the goodness that is God to simply overflow and to pervade the entire consciousness of the doctors, the nurses, the staff, and the wonderful spirit that is Marilyn. And so I take a deep breath knowing that Marilyn is whole and well and perfect. And I allow myself to simply feel tremendous gratitude that the power of good responds to my word. I am grateful to know that this word is already active in the mind of God. It is moving through the Spirit, and it is already done. And we say, and so it is. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you. Does anyone else have a prayer treatment or a comment or anything you would like to share? Way in the back. Anne.
Briefly, I too had excellent targeted radiation, and it did the trick. And I read a book long ago by Simonton. He was a medical student. There was a person with cancer that was so far gone, nobody would treat him. Simonton took him on and gave him an x-ray of a normal whatever it was where the cancer was, and he focused on that 15 minutes, 4 times a day, just like it was an antibiotic. And in 6 months, he went back to Simonton, and they could not find the cancer. So I know everybody has their own individual path, but to me, that's pretty powerful. And I thank this community also. I'm awaiting surgery late March, early April, and I'm hoping that'll fix some other problems I have, and I think it will. And just like the gentleman up in front, I always knew I'd be healthy, because I knew that was how I needed to go into this.
Yes. Now, I will have to say I've had a couple of surgeries in my life. I mean, I had cataract surgery. It's like a miracle. I'm just like a miracle. And I love that. I loved every minute of it while I was there. It was so wonderful. But before that, I had bunion surgery on each of my feet. And I can't tell you how much I looked forward to it. It was going to be the best thing. I was so tired of the discomfort and pain that I had had from that. I was looking forward to it. I actually didn't have any post-operative pain. And people tell me I'm lying when I say that. I mean, the Vicodin was sitting right here that they had given me. I didn't even take Tylenol. I don't know, I can't explain that, but that's what happened to me. So your mind is important. And I wonder now, and I didn't expect that it wasn't going to hurt. That's the other thing. I didn't have that expectancy. I just had the expectancy that I was going to be free of those things that were sticking out of my foot. And of course, that's true. And it's an amazing thing. That sense of expectancy, I believe, is partly why I didn't have the pain. And so but that's just, I think that is sense of expectancy may be even more important than I could have given it credit. So I just say that. But that happened to me. And Simonton, by the way, has spoken here at the center during my time to be here. It's a long time ago, but he is quite renowned in he's a medical doctor, but his visualization and things that he used are important. Anyone else have a question? We may have, no, we haven't, we're all good. You still got time to go out front and see what needs to be done. Again, I thank you for being here. You're a lovely audience, and I'm glad you came today, and I hope to see you another time.